voices, let them sing. Heads are spinning, never slow. With our rhythm, feel the flow. We're the kings without a crown. Vegas bad boys sold the town. Raise your hands, feel the beats. In this world can't be beat. Vegas bad boys said it right. Rockin' Sean through the night. In shadows, but we shine bright. Pro wrestling's guiding light. Thunder rolls with each debate. Opinions roaring, we create. Blazing trails, we make our mark. Vegas bad boys set the spark. Raise your hands, feel the beat. In this world can't be beat. Vegas bad boys said it right. Rockin' Sean through the night. With our dreams held high, we'll reach the sky.
Our bold, our spirit free. The Vegas bad boys, eternally.
Raise your hands, feel the beat. In this world can't be beat. Vegas bad boys said it right. Rockin' Sean through the night. Rockin' Sean through the night.
Hey everybody, Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting here. Matt Michaels and Rob Bossoleri in for the final live episode of the year. If you tune into the podcast on audio, there is a bonus episode that will drop tomorrow with a look back on 2024 with our thoughts and opinions. Next week we will have a pre-recorded episode on Sunday that will basically be predictions for the new year in 2025. So with that being said, we're just kind of do a little freeform here. And Rob, AEW had a pay-per-view, a legitimate pay-per-view.
The World's End.
Yeah.
My wallet ends.
The company ends.
Yeah, it was a lot of hoopla to get no results. A lot of wrestling banger matches.
Sure.
Both the Will Ospreay's matches were freaking, again, something for the history books. He'll be in a wheelchair like Lex Luger in about 5 years. They busted him open really, really bad going out with Kyle Fletcher. He comes back with the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. And Okada, even though he did make him work for it, it was a lot easier for a Okada who was going in with a lot less injury going into that match. He was not opened up like Ospreay was, and Ospreay got bladed pretty good. It was 3 big slashes across the face. The endless spots, and of course in that first match, him winning with the Styles Clash, which he's incorporated a lot as of late. But again, we're going from one spot into another, which is a really something synonymous with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where they could go from one spot to another, from one finisher into another finisher and into another finisher. You don't see that as much in WWE, in my opinion. You had a 4-way match, a fatal 4-way for the World Heavyweight belt, and Mox retains because all of the shenanigans that you're going to get with the Death Riders coming in. And the big, ending on that one is, okay, Edge is back. Excuse me. Copeland is back. Great. And it's rated FTR. Oh, FTR. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how he gets to take. I don't like if you're going to slap people together because you could make a name out of it. And I'm looking at, you rated FTR. You see what we did there? Yeah, but do these guys have chemistry? I mean, is there chemistry or is there not? And I didn't care. I didn't care they cashed it a suicide dive. It didn't ring as anything genuine because as in all things, these guys came well after the match was lost. If they really wanted to get the belt off of Mox and make that a priority, then those guys could have showed up 5 minutes earlier if you wanted that to be or the conglomeration could have showed up.
Well, let's just start with the fun fact that everyone involved in that, except for Wheeler Yuta, is all ex WWE.
Yeah.
A company that we are not signing the WWE guys. Their whole fucking
FTR, WWE, and Marina Shafir. I don't think she was WWE.
was NXT.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Yeah, all of those guys were WWE guys.
Cesaro, Pac. Yep.
And then we go to Christian Cage, which is WWE. So it was literally a SmackDown roster, to be honest. It was all of those guys were on SmackDown, if anything. The beginnings of the pay-per-view had more of the non-WWE people, not counting a revisit to Mercedes Moné versus, and again, Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander. And they fought and they had spots. She caught her up into into just below the ring apron where she had to fight with her boot off. She took some, they did some great, a lot of submission moves in the match. Mercedes Moné wins clean, but is she going to have a baby face turn off that? She was leading the line. Hey, Jamie, I don't know if they're trying to turn her, but she was getting some of the crowd support. So what do you do with that now? Because it doesn't give you anything because there's no investment in it. There was no investment in any of the matches because there was nothing on the line for any of them. We had a pinata with thumbtacks. Okay, cool. It's fun to see, but I didn't care. I did not really give two shits about that match because we know that the final result is going to be Mariah May facing Toni Storm. So this idea that you're going to have a Tijuana death match, and you got a bottle of tequila, and she spit in the face and beats her with the dad's cane, and
the whole thing though is that to have someone like Thunder Rosa, you got to realize, and I think this is something Mariah May, very much like Willow, is someone who I think thinks they're so much better than they really are. And that's the thing that really, you put her with Thunder Rosa makes her look good. That's the only reason that match happens, to give her credibility, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. The Statlander Monet match, that was slapped together. Oh, let's throw out a second one of those. What's interesting is how much these diehard AEW fans aren't looking at that type of thing. They're just looking, oh, so good, so good, oh, so good. And it's like, did you watch the same thing? Because the honest answer is that passable stuff, but like you said, prediction. Why is Okada? Why did he win? It's his fifth tournament win overall between New Japan and AEW in these tournaments. And it's like, there's nothing that you gain, for instance, King of the Ring, WWE doesn't ever repeat those kings. And there's a reason, because you're pushing this person forward, and then they should go on to something else. It should elevate them and it becomes something else. And I think that's the problem with this tournament. Yeah, great matches. But in the end, Will Ospreay lost. on a pay-per-view again in a match that should have mattered, and he should have been the one to win this, and then to carry that into the new year being, hey, I'm the Continental, champion. That's the thing that frustrates me. Same thing with the shit with MJF. Now, is MJF a babyface now? Like, what is going on with Kyle O'Reilly?
This is the thing now. So Kyle O'Reilly, I'm glad you brought this up, and this is a what the fuck moment. Kyle O'Reilly was slapped together in the conglomeration of rando people who were part of other tag teams or factions and had nowhere to go.
Right.
Kyle O'Reilly is a good wrestler, but he's not leaving. He's not leaving the Undisputed Kingdom. He's always hovering around them.
Right.
And he wasn't having any significant beef with them. They really didn't explain why he didn't want to be with them. The idea was, oh, I want to be my own guy. Then why are you in another group if you want to be your own guy? Why are you in the conglomeration if you want to be your own guy? You have no history with Orange Cassidy, no history with Mark Briscoe, no history with any of these people that would make you want to grow with them. And all you're doing is being a slapstick comedy relief. So then they try to make you serious overnight because Roddy Strong is suddenly paper mache and he took one serious bump and now you're worried about his well-being. Why didn't you look out for the guy who wheeled him, who rolled around in a wheelchair with a neck brace? You're supposed to be heels. He's supposed to be a heel. You can't be a heel and be frail. You cannot be a paper mache heel. You're supposed to be that guy who's going to get his ass kicked. The last time I saw a heel whine that he got beat up really bad was back in the day when CM Punk was with Paul Heyman. And he said, oh, man, you guys are bullies. You guys are bullies, man, the way you treat people. And it didn't last. That heel gimmick version of himself didn't last very long because it's not in his wheelhouse to complain like that. He would rather go, you're a piece of shit. I'm going to tell you on the mic, I don't need Paul Heyman. That, fine. So now he gets back with the Undisputed Kingdom. Is he going to be there, or is he going to go to conglomeration, tell you go fuck yourself and beat the shit out of them? We don't know. You created another avenue that you could explore, but it's AEW, so they're not going to explore it because that's too much thinking. Because by rights, the other conglomeration members to go, hey, guys, so are you with them or are you with us? They're kind of assholes. Remember, they fucked him over in the first place. Because remember, MJF was a babyface. He was a good guy, and they fucked him over. So now you want to team with them? But no, they're going to ignore it. They're going to act like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Then you have this Swerve Strickland, WWE, Ricochet, WWE thing. And my thing is this. If I'm Ricochet, why wouldn't I just go, hey, dude, why are you fucking around with me? Shouldn't you be after your belt that you got robbed of? Why are you fucking with me? I'm basically a mid-carder. I'm not even good enough to be a mid-carder in this company. You are wasting your time on me. That's like a comedian who gets paid $50,000 plus a year and can live off of his comedy, going to open mics and bitching about the open micers. And I'm saying that because I know a comic who does that. And you're like, wait a minute. Ricochet, you're an open micer. You have no belts. You left WWE with no belts. They unsurreptitiously threw you on the hood of a car and left you for dead. And your only claim to fame is that your hot, successful fiance gave her job to be with you. And I don't think they're going to bump Justin Roberts to have her announce. And I don't think she's going to be the next Whitney Houston or fucking Lizzo. So I don't know what you have to claim, except that you're kind of annoying, but you have good in-ring moves. And you lost. And you lost just short of the whole thing. So you're going to go battle some other guy who should be battling to get his belt back? None of it makes any sense. You created feuds where it didn't need to be.
We're going to the getting his belt back, but he literally had his house that he just bought when he signed his new contract burnt down by a guy
to the ground. Hold on.
who then goes to the main event in this pay-per-view and gets a
Yeah.
title shot in a
So
4-way.
you lose the belt. Okay. Instead of going after the belt, you feud with this guy that you've already beaten and you strangled him with a chain. He burns your house down. You get your shit stuffed in your mouth and you get your head kicked in with thumbtacks in your mouth. You realize you lost that, and instead of going after him and reproving your manhood, you go to bully a guy who has no mic skills, no way he's going to get any fucking leverage whatsoever in the company. You pair these two up, and the guy now, here's the thing with Ricochet. Mustafa Ali is good in the ring. Mustafa Ali had nothing to do in WWE. They made him part of a faction with Michin and a couple of others, the two fruity guys from Eminem, or one of them, Mace, and they flip the lights on and off at WWE, and they accomplish nothing. He gets injured, and then he comes back, and he's light schedule, and then they have nothing to do with him. Goes to TNA, and they immediately have a story with him, and it sticks. He's going to be a presidential character. He's going to have a...
Hold on. Now, one of the things is because you're not an NXT guy,
Yeah.
that actually started in NXT.
Ah.
And they let Mustafa go just because of the budgetary stuff, as they were starting to build that actual character. And then he went to TNA, and that's where it went.
But it worked.
Exactly. And the thing is if the budget cuts didn't kick in and he wasn't on that list, then right now Mustafa would still be in, either NXT or on the main roster doing that character. Yeah. So,
and it works.
But Ricochet never got the character in WWE at all.
Nothing
at all.
Now, even Mansoor and Mace, those two guys tried to bring that Eminem collective over to AEW,
right.
And for a brief glimmer, we saw what could be something there. They were doing stuff that was, I liked them more than Pretty Deadly, and I would have loved to have seen maybe a duel with them in Pretty Deadly. That would have been entertaining, but they're not doing anything there. What's the other thing we were talked about? Oh, the Scissor Gang. What happens with the Acclaimed? Nothing. Nothing happens.
That goes to Rampage. And they had a match between I think it was Bowens and Jericho.
Yeah. And
it really, again, they're just building up the tension between the two guys, and is there going to be a split type of thing? And it's just, it drags. It just drags. It's like, why is he wrestling Jericho? And then Jericho's the king of New York. They're in New York, so he's going to win that match. We already know that. There was nothing that was accomplished. It was just boring, in the sense of two storylines that just are there, don't really go anywhere. And you can tell it was on Rampage, the banger last Rampage ever. So that's, I don't know. That's where it feels. It's just like, it just kind of gets stuck. They're going into the pay-per-view, and Rampage is their last selling point, and you wait till the end of the show to essentially have Moxley and the Death Aces and Eights come out and just like beat down, and then
it was a clusterfuck. We just say it was a clusterfuck.
Well, I mean, again, you had them like put Darby Allin's neck in a chair, and like they took out Darby Allin for no reason, who wasn't involved in the match anyway in the main event.
And that's another thing now. Even in WWE, there's separation. They might do a pull apart once in a while. Why is Darby Allin getting involved? He's not going to take the belt off of anybody in that group. So that's number one. He's not going to, He slammed his car into theirs, got nothing for it but a split skull. And they go, "Oh, you're crazy. He's crazy." Don't care. I just don't give a shit. I don't care who he sets on fire. I don't care about that stupid pink coat. I don't care that he gave on Collision, or not Collision, on Dynamite, he gave the Nux to Commander. And he gives these plastic. First of all, he gives them these Nux. They look like they were made in a 3D printer. They look the most plastic brass knuckles I've ever seen. And why is his fur coat underneath the ring? Like, my fur coat's underneath the ring because, it's where I keep my jacket. Everybody else keeps their jacket in their locker room. You got a locker room. And I could have just easily just said underneath the ring, under a chair, or some brass knucks. No, I strategically put my pink fur coat. And I want you, Commander, to take out. Why? What are we doing? Now you're just spiteful. You're not accomplishing anything. You didn't accomplish anything. And by the way, how many times do I have to see groups like the House of Black be baby faces when they're not supposed to be baby faces? Why am I seeing Shelton Benjamin trying to give a handshake? Are you a heel? You're in the hurt business. Why are you giving anyone a fucking handshake? What is this bullshit? Know what the fuck you are. This is the problem. Know what? Yeah. First of all, Darby Allin looks like if you're here in Las Vegas, there's an area. It's called the Green Door area. Okay, Green Door is a swingers club, and unfortunately, if you've ever been daring enough to want to see what it is, there's a bunch of dudes running around there in high heels. That's where all the male prostitutes are. Darby Allin looks like one of them. Okay, minus the high heels, he's got on Spanx that women wear. Never understood the tights. He's the only wrestler I've ever seen wearing women's leggings. He looks like he's trying for a fucking local dinner theater version, a goth Peter Pan. I don't get it. Fine. You look like I don't get it, but you're rudderless. All of the characters there are rudderless, and they don't know what they want to be. And MJF will be so entertaining as a heel that he'll have to remind the audience to shut the fuck up. Because if you listen to the match, he goes, "Stop fucking cheering me! Shut the fuck up, you marks!" And I'm watching this, and I'm going, they don't know what they're doing. A long, long time ago, when Paul Heyman was representing Brock Lesnar, they went to Minnesota, and the idea is that Brock Lesnar's from Minnesota. He was in the Vikings. Right. You got to make this guy a heel. You don't want him going over with the crowd. And Paul Heyman had to apologize for Triple H because no matter what he said, you people are marks, you people are losers. I can't believe I'm in this filthy town. I can't believe I was on this team. They kept cheering for Brock Lesnar, and Paul Heyman went backstage and apologized. Somebody should do that on the AEW writing team because they forgot that there's supposed to be a good guy and a bad guy.
There's no writing team.
There isn't.
That's the problem.
And now when they started, Jericho came out and he had on his, his fedora, whatever you want to call that hat. He had that, and he had the makeup, and he was clearly a heel. And he said, "I'm carrying this company on my back." And then he goes, "Oh, little bit of the bubbly." And he was a babyface again. And it was like with one catchphrase, he was a babyface. But they knew how to work it. They went, "Okay, you like us now. You like the Inner Circle. Fine, we'll shoot crazy promos." And then once it got to the point where they were too stale, the Jericho Appreciation Society, and he took 3 guys and he built them up as far as he could take them, dropped them off. Okay, that worked. Punk, great. We knew what Punk was. Obnoxious, but we knew what he was. MJF, consistent. Even when he was a face, he was still consistent because he goes, "I'm a scumbag, but I'm your scumbag." Great. Everybody else, they don't know what to do with them. They don't know what to do with them.
No, because they're allowing everyone to dictate who they are, what they are, who they want to work with, etc.
That's like letting a little kid, try to decide your futures. That's like say, grab in a high school kid and go, here's his SAT. Now, once you pass this, we're going to decide now at 17 years old what you do the rest of your life.
It's even worse because it's a little kid who got his hand on all these action figures, but instead of you just controlling the action figures, you allow the action figures to actually talk to you.
Oh yeah,
and you believe what they're telling you. And so, I mean, it's listen. The only way to end this company is to, at the very last Dynamite, have Tony Khan in a hospital bed, and he's shaking a globe with an AEW ring inside of it.
Oh, Jesus Christ, we're doing Rosebud.
No, I'm thinking Saint Elsewhere, the end of it, where the autistic kid, everything was made up in his mind about this snow globe that had this hospital that said Saint Elsewhere.
Oh, wow.
That's exactly what Tony Khan is. He's an autistic kid who's playing with a snow globe, and he's just allowing everyone else to just have their way with it. Rampage, the end of Rampage was literally Mox going into the truck and shutting it off. And it wasn't just the TV went black. They gave it a sound. And it was just like, oh my God, this is the dumbest bullshit. Just, you couldn't just do a fucking great match to end the fucking show and let the guys like absorb the end of it and call it the end. No.
Hey, here's the thing. WWE had WWE Heat. There was Main Event. They had shows fail, but your secondary show, SmackDown, never failed. They went up and down on the hours. They changed venues. This is a big deal that your second program closed house.
Well, the question is, though, was it the second program? Technically, Collision is the second program.
Well, because it's chronologically.
But this is something in talking to Steve that I kind of forgotten. Technically, Rampage was an important second show because that's where you brought in Punk, right?
Yeah.
And that's initially how your ratings spiked and whatnot, and people got interested in it. But the biggest problem then was the network got really interested in, in the shit that was going on internally. So let's do a show, let's do a Collision, let's do it on a Saturday, let's do 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. And then everything fell apart because
it was too much too fast and you stretched yourself thin.
Right. And the thing
when it was just Dynamite, it was good.
Right.
And that's where when you and I are meeting, I'm thinking a year earlier, Rob is thinking Dynamite, man, that show was on fire. They had it was fresh. They had wrestlers we had never seen before. And then they flooded the whole company with WWE guys.
Yeah.
With the same storylines. All having the same storylines.
Well, let's, you know what, and this brings up the Ricochet point to a T here. Outside of guys like Edge, Moxley, Jericho, right? Danielson. These were your big guys over there, right? Some of your biggest names, Monet, right?
Right.
Outside of that, the people they've been bringing in are mid-carders to low-carders from the WWE's system. What gets me is that the AEW fan base looks at these people as being more than just mid-carders. But when you look at how they're being utilized, it goes to show they are nothing more than mid-carders. But you still want Ricochet to be champion. Why?
Because Roman Reigns had a look. And then he opens up his mouth for the first time and he bored the crowd so bad. He went, nah, man, this ain't boring, man. This is my life, man. Y'all, man, believe that. And they forced a belt on him too many times. And then finally he hooks up with Paul Heyman and finds a pathway.
Well, they also turned him heel. Remember,
Yes.
now, see, that was one of Vince's problems, right? Vince was very good at taking someone, making them a babyface, making them the face of the company, and pushing them down the throat to where fans got sick of it, and then not turning on. And that's what they did with Cena. Now, Cena, it made sense because Cena did not want to turn and have all those kids
Yeah, those
disappointed.
Make-A-Wish kids.
Right.
He was
Which,
him and Hulk Hogan were the two most requested guys on Make-A-Wish.
right. And you know, and when Hogan did the heel turn, it was timed with that generation that was now in their early 20s. So that worked. But
They
with
followed him
John,
over from WWE. That
right,
kind of worked back then because you took all the guys as a clump, one shot, and said, we're going to make a new faction.
right. And the thing is with John, it really was, it didn't matter that that kids were growing older. It was about everyone who was a 10-year-old kid now, right? For over a decade. Roman just couldn't hit. And let's say hello to Richard. Hey, Richard.
Bob Richard.
So the thing that really frustrates me about the AEW concept is when you look at these guys, the problem is that the focus on making guys like Ricochet elevated, that's great. Oh, sure, he can put on a great match. But the problem is what he's really good at is getting someone else over. And so you want to see him be a champion because he's so good, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but the problem is that you have Jon Moxley running around with the briefcase, calling himself the champion, and Jon Moxley is not going to allow a guy like Ricochet to be champion, right?
But here's the question now. Who does he allow? Because it's not even just that you allow somebody to be the champion. Because you have a faction behind you, you also are tasked with this problem of wiping out these other three people. You've got to get rid. And I don't remember if Pac was around last night. Did he even make an appearance at the end last night? I saw a lot of Marina Shafir, and I saw a lot of Wheeler Yuta and some Claudio Castagnoli. I don't recall Pac in that scuffle.
Yeah, I don't know. Pac might be hurt again.
And that's the thing now. You're right. And they never even explained that one for all that was said there. So you've got all these guys now. You got to get rid of them. Then you have to replace him with somebody the audience is going to get behind, or in other words, the belt's going to shuffle and lose value. The belt has very little value now in this iteration because it's not around anyone's waist, and we don't know why it's not.
And now we're already hinting towards Moxley and Edge, which like that.
And Adam Copeland is coming off injury. So you're going to have this triple threat bullshit because you're going to have Christian with his contract that he's lording over everyone's head. And he's got mid-card. I don't even want to say mid-carders because even mid-cards is a promotion for some of these guys. Nick Wayne is not a mid-carder. He's not good enough for that. Nick Wayne is good for his age, period.
No. Nick Wayne and Hook closed out Rampage. The last match of Rampage's history.
Oh, nauseous.
Nick Wayne and Hook. And the problem is that if those two guys' dads weren't guys who were in the business,
they wouldn't be anywhere.
No, they would be wrestling in front of 20 people in a gym instead of 30 people on a fucking national television program. That's it. I mean, it was horrible. To me, again, it was horrible because these guys are they're both like 20, I think.
What does Hook have in his arsenal? He's got hip tosses and punches. Stiff punches and hip tosses, maybe in the red rum is his finisher, which he doesn't
even do his dad's suplexes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, he's not Taz, suplex machine, 13
no,
suplexes in a row. You're not getting out of the grip. None of that shit.
no.
Taz in the 90s was like a fucking scary dude. Hook.
For a guy who was 5'4" and 260 or whatever, the guy was a monster. Hook is a good-looking dude who is a slacker. He's basically Orange Cassidy without Orange Cassidy's character.
He's Orange Cassidy with tattoos and without the Ray-Bans.
Yeah,
It's the same character.
and
But
without his face on his own shirt.
yeah. And then he's got the New York accent. The problem is another one. Cannot cut a promo. Now, Orange Cassidy knows he couldn't cut a promo, so he says very little, and it works.
Here's the problem. Quite honest, after being around him a little bit, no, he can cut a promo, to be honest. It's just not in the character, and they haven't figured out. Now they're trying a little bit, and hopefully you put him in the black, you maybe turn him a little bit heel and give him a little something. Sure. But again,
you gotta have strong people there to write it.
Right. And that's the problem. And it goes in a loop. The one thing now too that we didn't mention is Omega comes out in his suit and has a stare down, and it's like, oh God, are we so really? Omega's
now
back.
why I thought that Rainmaker would lose that one because he was the last member of the Elite.
Again.
So what do we get with having him have a belt that he's not going to defend? Because he didn't defend it all that much the first time around. And I thought that was the idea that, this idea that he's going to now fight for this thing every year, like another Dynamite Diamond ring, which didn't change hands.
No, and that's the whole thing. And like I said, Okada, this makes no sense. And they built it up in putting it in the canon of Okada with 3 other, of these types of wins in New Japan. Again, who cares?
Yeah.
And then Omega comes out and it's like, oh, great. So now we're going to see Omega, who already is, going to New Japan, just walks out, going to have a stare down for, again, why? We're going to put a guy who's just coming out, instead of building him back up and allowing him to get off the ring rust and allow the fans to kind of want to like him. Yes, Omega does sound like a transformer.
But and here's the thing with that. So you have Christopher Daniels goes, "Oh, I won't hand you this belt because I'm not an EVP anymore." All right. So am I to believe that Christopher Daniels is going to hit the ring now? No. He's going to. So exactly. So in other words, he's another shirt and tie like all the other like washed up guys at WWE in the back who show up to do pull aparts. He'll be Jamie Noble. He'll be
essentially. I mean, what they should have done is just again, and again, the whole EVP thing has never made any sense.
No,
because they don't.
Because of CM Punk complaining about it,
and they don't know, like Optimus Prime, Omega Prime. Yeah, I just. It makes no sense, and again, it's putting your toe in the water type thing, right? It's right. Like when Tony Khan comes and he does something on camera, it's so cringeworthy because it's the guy who said he wouldn't be on camera. He doesn't want to be Vince, etc., and then he does something, and it's like, oh.
But I liked him when he showed up and cut those promos in the middle of TNA.
They were horrible, dude.
I
thought not gonna watch them.
Right.
They're awful.
But that was the thing. They were bad with Shivani right there looking awkward as fuck. It was funny because they were so bad. It was one of those, this is so bad, it's good. But then they stopped doing that, and it was just him on his own.
Well, and that's the problem. And I think that's the problem they're running into, right? Is you said it, so bad it was good. You're getting to a point where it's so bad it's not good. It's not.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right.
Now, we're talking about WWE. I felt this week was a good bridge week. In other words, they found a way to keep storylines going, keep some steam into them.
Yeah.
Sami Zayn was on both shows this week. He gets to SmackDown. He gets jumped. We know that's going to happen. We've got not as much. I didn't see too much from Braun Breaker. It is a little quiet in Braun Breaker, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they're again, they're gearing up this
Something bigger.
Well, everything's gearing up towards the Netflix premiere.
Exactly. So for now, it's just let's keep everything on a warming tray. That's what they are right now.
Right.
But the funny thing was Kofi Kingston.
Yeah.
His mom doesn't want anything to do with him. And then you listen, he made her fly coach in the middle aisle the whole way over from Africa.
From Ghana. Yeah. But see, and again, here's the difference. It's like that's the type of it's creative, right? Because it's funny.
Yeah.
But it also plays well when you have someone physically there that we're assuming is his mom, right?
Yeah,
we're not looking it up and stuff like, and he goes out to her and she's
Mom.
Yeah, she's so just upset and just does not like what she heard him say. She leaves.
Yeah.
They go backstage and Rey Mysterio basically,
I forgive you. I'll let this go if
Yeah.
you just apologize.
And they're like, fuck that. We're not apologizing. Okay. I'm just letting you know. I warned you.
Yeah.
And then Dominic Mysterio, the heel, fucking laughs at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, so that would, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you have something here that is so fucking unique that they're doing. They can't change in the dressing room because none of the guys in the locker room want them there.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
No one has their backs now. They've isolated themselves. And now we might see something we've never seen before. And that is two guys who are literally just so fucking isolated that everything they do is going to be just backlash and bullshit and bad. And people who love these guys, who a lot of the beauty of this is that Big E was the guy who was throwing out pancakes, right? The goofiness, the lovability was through Big E. And we've seen that dwindle down. And we saw that tease. Oh, they're going to turn on each other. Wait a minute. Which one's more of an asshole? Well, they're both assholes. This fucking works. And there you go. Omega Unicorn. There we go.
Well, or they had Unicron.
Unicron.
Yeah. But I tried to wrestle once and I almost broke my neck. Literally. Couldn't do a reverse roll. Landed on my neck awkwardly. And then everyone just stared at me on the ropes going, "What did you want to do?" I just wanted to be a fucking manager. You guys told me to get in the ring. And I was like, oh.
And that would be. Could you imagine Rob coming out in hoof heels, which would be hysterical. But yeah, I mean that's the thing we're seeing right now, a buildup, and we're seeing something.
But I also know with them that there's going to be new merch from this. They'll find a way to do dark versions of all of the gimmicks they've done before. We could see Francesca come back, or whatever he called the trombone. He could go do all of the old gimmicks again and just piss off the crowd more until they become likable and go full circle.
Oh, eventually. I mean, that's what wrestling is, right? And there are only certain people who don't make that full circle. But that's the thing. And what you're seeing with what their focus is now, NXT is a hell of a lot more intricate, and again, NXT this week was just really fucking solid, really good, moving stuff along. You're going to be getting come January 7th, and again they're moving towards January 6th Netflix, January 7th the NXT Tuesday night show is in LA, so it's going to be Roxanne against Julia, where it feels like Julia should win the belt. I got a feeling Roxanne's going to retain it in a heel way. Something's going to happen, but they're building this stuff up.
I always found it unique that she is the heel when she was kind of the plucky underdog baby face of Ring of Honor. But she sells it. She sells that heel character, and the kind of heel by which they want to do everything they can to hold on to the belt, because they know in the back of their mind they aren't that physically strong, or they are not great wrestlers. I think that's the way they have always approached it. In Judgment Day now, where she's like, oh yeah, I got a heavy backing me up because I know I could get my ass kicked by Rhea Ripley at any given moment. So Liv Morgan is always wrestling with that fever, like at any moment I can lose this belt, and that makes her a good heel.
Right. And the thing with Roxanne that they did so brilliantly, and this is what NXT is good for, did the same thing with Braun Breaker, right? You put them through the stages of being a face and the stages of being a heel, because of the fact that is the development, right? That's the aspect of development you can do down there. So that when you bring Braun Breaker up, you're going to bring him up, and if you're having him as a heel and the fans are now reacting where they're getting more behind him as a face, he's going to be able to switch that quickly.
He is unique because he's one of those guys you could just throw him in there as anything. If he beats the crap out of somebody, I don't mind. And he never once pledged allegiance to the people. He's not one of these wrestlers going to come out, I do it for these people. No, he's doing it because who's going to beat him? Like on TNA, Diener comes out there and Diener goes, well, I tried to do my own thing and that failed. So now I'm only going to do what these people tell me to do. Yuck, yuck. And you can only go that far with such a character before it gets boring. That's why, again, TNA, Eddie Edwards, when he was a champ the last time, he goes, I'm going to be a fighting champion. Great, but boring. When I hear a fighting champion, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It means you have no persona. You have no gimmick. You have nothing to sell me. That should be besides the point that you're going to defend your belt. Okay, Cody Rhodes is a fighting champion. He doesn't say it by name. Cody Rhodes goes out there as the polished, new age version of the people's champion with a legacy and a family name to uphold, whatever. And by the way, at any point, if they wanted to, they could easily turn his ass heel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easily take that same route and go, you know what? The legacy of the Rhodes name is very important. No one's going to get a hold of this belt. I've defended it so many times, and I lost time away from my wife and daughter for you people. And you know what? I'm not getting that same love that I got a year and a half ago at WrestleMania. I'm 39 or 40. You guys have to, show. If he did that, be good. But he's thick-headed. He won't do it.
Well, but they don't need to do it right now. That's the whole thing.
They could.
That's the thing. That's the thing. And
it would get him more. It would get him more. It would get him more spins, so to speak.
But remember,
more gas in the tank.
And I think that's what we're seeing here is the difference between, you can say all you want about, well, it's only been 5 years for AEW, Not
past that. You've had 5 years. You should be able to fucking wipe your ass.
Well, but the thing is that what a lot of the AEW crowd was really, Oh, long-term storytelling, long-term story. Oh, WWE doesn't do that. They just put, so and so
It
together,
changed.
and we see this, blah blah.
It flipped.
It is.
Raw
And
sucked back then. Raw sucked 5 years ago. It was
but
unwatchable.
the whole thing is, again, it comes down to the fact that you now have someone in charge who can literally look at it and go, here's the thing. We don't need to change Cody right now.
No.
But when it's time, he's not afraid to pull that trigger on it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
he'll know, Hunter will know, okay, we need something fresh from this character. We need something fresh from that character. And
And he
that's what
doesn't
we're
have
finding
that
out.
John Cena baggage. Whereas John Cena
Right.
has this, oh, I have to be the face of the kids and lose half the audience in the meantime.
Well, and the thing was, though, that realistically, John Cena was a heel for that portion of the audience, and he was a face for that portion of the audience. One of the only guys who's ever been able to do that.
Yeah, I can see that, but it was more of like, I think you're corny. He was like a Kurt Angle heel.
Yeah, but
He
for
did sell it as both.
But an AEW Cody who fans hated and was still forcing the character. There weren't fans who loved that character. There weren't kids who were. He was just getting the shit kicked out of him. So the by the fans, but
Yeah.
Cena had those kids. That's what I'm saying. He had the kids. He had a lot of women fans. He had fans still who were guys, but he had the group that hated him, and it's hard to do that and maintain both bases. But that's the thing you're seeing now. Now, one of the biggest things that happened again with WWE this week was the fact that they ran a house show on I believe it was Friday night when Punk and
Why did he come out in a bathrobe and a shower cap?
came out in a towel.
A towel, yeah, your towel and a shower cap, yeah.
Right. Now, as I
Was that a
understand it,
shoot?
no,
No, that's just,
it
I
was
don't know.
totally, it was totally, see, that's the whole thing. It was totally planned. And the fact of the matter is that I guess that Jim Cornette had mentioned something on his podcast about how, wouldn't it be great one day if, a face, music hit and he came out, he was in the shower and he literally came out to make a save. Well, Punk must have been listening, and Punk's music hits, and then all of a sudden you see him running out in a towel and a bathing cap and gets into a cage. And, you have Ludwig Kaiser and Dominic, the perfect two guys in there. And, he goes and he does a couple things, and then he disappears out of the camera shot. And then Damian Priest does a double clothesline. It was brilliant. It was a great clip. It's gotten so many views. And the honest answer is that got them trending. House shows, WWE house shows trended on social media.
And that's another thing I always say. When I would see them post Samantha Irwin reacting to spots, I go, who cares about this? I would go, who gives a shit about it? Why do they have to post every little insignificant thing? Because that's important. Being viral and having content is important.
And that's what
AEW doesn't do that. So when Samantha Irwin, if she would come up on my feed and somebody would get clocked in the face, she's going, oh my God. I'm going, you know what? Her getting excited is getting me excited about that spot. Now I want to see how she thought about it the next day. I genuinely miss her because when she first came in, I used to go, she's no Lillian Garcia. Now I go to Lillian Garcia and I'm like, man, I miss Samantha Irwin.
See, I hate her. I hate Samantha Irwin. I've never liked her.
There's two people I liked, Samantha Irwin and AEW. Justin Roberts.
Oh.
And the reason why is the way they call people's names. They'll put a little sauce on it when they do it. And I like that shit. Freshly squeezed. And I'm like, just all of those little nuances. But then her reaction, her reaction was so natural. She's having the same reaction. When her voice cracked, announcing that Cody Rhodes won, I was in tears. This girl is so happy at that moment. I'm excited. There isn't anyone outside of that ring getting me excited like that.
Unfortunately, that's Ref Aubrey bullshit. It's getting yourself over for no reason. That's my opinion on it. But again,
fair enough.
That's
Aubrey, but Aubrey finally learned, hey, I can't make it about me, because then she cried. First, it was just, here's this robotic-looking woman with this mechanical 3 count. Now she's glopped up makeup, and I don't know why she has to be glopped up. And now she's inserting herself in the matches directly, fighting some of the people. All right, you went overboard.
No.
You went overboard.
That's my feelings about Samantha. Everyone is that, but
yeah,
it's that overboard sense. But this is this is something that's very interesting, because right now WWE's house shows are drawing pretty damn good numbers for house shows. Their house show in Florida apparently drew, I think, 10,000, something like that. 8 or 10,000, and it outdrew the pay-per-view that was AEW had. So
how many were at the AEW pay-per-view? I thought they did a good job filling that arena.
It was like set up for like 5 or 8,000. That's it.
Oh, Jesus.
That's why it looks good. See, now that's the whole thing. It looks like a full house, which is great. That's what you should be doing. But again, if you go look at the numbers, it was not set up for a big show, because again,
they don't have the people.
They don't have the people, and they don't have the real necessity to build. The card wasn't built well. I mean, you could have done, honestly, you could have just done the whole tournament itself in one night. Just
here's the other thing. Everything has to make sense. It all has to revolve around the name of your pay-per-view, has to relate to the type of matches. We had the World's End. Nothing ended. Everybody left with their fucking belts the same way they walked in. Nothing ended. There was nothing at all related. WWE has done it too, when they had like Great Balls of Fire and all that bullshit. But usually the theme is wrapped up in the matches, and the matches into the team. Sometimes.
Listen, yes and no. Unfortunately, WWE had a pay-per-view called Over the Edge, and Owen Hart literally fell from the sky. So I mean, I don't put that stake into a lot of the pay-per-view names.
I did a little bit, in the sense that, hey, all right. So we have this thing, nothing ended. What was it? It was just a cool name, but it didn't apply at all to the wrestling. Unforgiven. Great. Undertaker's fighting his brother. Hell in a Cell. Great. We're it's all tied together. WWE does it.
But there's certain things like that you can. But again, when you're running all these different pay-per-views, the problem is that you're not going to have necessarily 12 or 10 or 8 different themes that you can consistently do, because then that limits you too. Again, there was no point that this shouldn't be just the tournament itself. That whole thing could have been done in one night. And, he does fucking 5 hours, 6 hours pay-per-views anyway. Just have the whole thing done in one night, and then you could have built a theme around it, World's End. And, at the very end, maybe that's when, when Okada wins, and you have Omega come back, now it's about time for Okada's world to end because Omega's back. Something like that, right?
Yeah,
You
but they didn't
figure shit together, right? So, but what's really interesting is they're having problem drawing. WWE is drawing house shows that have big numbers, and WWE, it looks like, a few months back, Nick Khan said they're going to be slowly eliminating house shows, which is very interesting because
No, wait, why would you do that if they're working?
well, it's cost, and you got two aspects on it. One,
You got to pay all these talent to show up.
it's not even the talent. The talents are under guarantee contract, so it's not.
They got to
paying
go
the
with it.
talent.
Okay.
It's A, you're taking the risk with the talent getting hurt, of course.
Okay.
Just like any other time. But B, it's more so it's the travel of everyone.
And that's how Saraya got hurt on a house show. She took like an Irish whip into the corner and she was not moving. And that was at a house show.
I thought she took an Xavier Woods through the eye, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, that was a big rim shot right there.
Yes, look up that video. Oh, new Days Cock. Days Cock.
I love how they did that rap battle with the new.
But that's the thing. The thing is that the bottom line is basically the house shows do cost, and there was a point when they were running them that they were only pulling in 1,000, 2,000 people. They were doing bad, and now they're looking at cutting that out. AEW doesn't do house shows. It is arguable that they need something like house shows, whether it just be, I think, honestly, you got the facility at the Jacksonville complex there. They should be doing some kind of training facility there, having younger talent move there and literally work out in the ring and film stuff and make it just internet exclusive shit. Just to get these guys reps in.
The other thing is what really brought, and I've said this many times before, their association and their interchange with TNA would allow you then to have matches within weeks apart or days apart, by which you could have somebody on TNA fight somebody on AEW fight somebody on WWE. And I would be intrigued.
You're never going to do that, though. That's the problem. AEW
they're not going to go and reestablish that connection, and I get it.
They can't because it's not about the connection now. TNA is under contract with distribution with the people who own the WWE. It's not going to happen. Here's the biggest thing, and as the year ends, they got their TV deal, and Tony said something in the press conference about the TV deal is great because it just shows how loyal the fans are, something to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting is I know that calling out Eric Bischoff and all the shit that Tony has kind of pushed aside in terms of Bischoff saying, listen, I've made these mistakes, I'm trying to help you.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that came out was Variety saying that the company was worth X amount of dollars. Well, it's a private company, so that estimate is based off of what is coming in from the television deal being announced, right? So you're speculating essentially what the company's worth. Now, this is the one thing that really brings this to the reality aspect. And I love that AEW fans are enthusiastic about their company. That's great. The problem is, though, is that being realistic about it, the value of the company is based around the television deal. A television deal can disappear at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime. WCW was a valuable company. Eric Bischoff was trying to buy WCW, had everything in place, and Turner pulled the television deal, right?
Sounds like what we see now with Scott D'Amore.
Well, no, because D'Amore wanted to buy that company, but the Access just said, no, we're keeping it. They saw the value in the company more so. No, the truth of the matter is that WCW was technically losing money, and it was not a viable TV product anymore. If that television contract would have stayed in place, Eric Bischoff would have bought WCW. The deal was there, but the television execs pulled it. They didn't want wrestling anymore. It wasn't a profitable thing for them. And all of a sudden, that money being pulled, which you have no television deal, your wrestling company is invaluable, right? The only thing that became valuable was the video library and the music library and the naming rights, the pay-per-views, etc. So if at any point WB decides, hey, we're 2 years in and this thing is not working for us, and they pull, that company is now devalued. The only thing that is valuable at that point is the video library and the copyrights that they have. That is a very real possibility. It's not a hater. It's nothing like that. It's an honest possibility, because if you look at the trend, the problem is if you don't build it just a little bit, even, right? Every year, just a little bit. If that money, and the argument is, well, they just lost live sports and this will continue to, if people stop watching, the advertisers are not going to pay the same amount for the commercial spots. Therefore, the money they're putting into the product from the television deal is not beneficial. And that's how television works. The streaming aspect of this is huge, because if the streaming numbers on Max are not something that is causing them to see that this is valuable, now if the ratings start lowering and your streaming is not doing a good platform number, the company is not valuable. So you can say,
this is really their make or break. This is their way to go. All right, you got Netflix, so I got Max.
They need to deliver this year in 25 on building just a little bit, something that gets people buzzing again, talking again, and wanting to tune in again. What is very interesting is that the WWE went from being in kind of that circular motion of just that hamster in a wheel to all of a sudden Vince is gone, Hunter's taking over. Wow, people start liking working here now. Things are going in the right direction. We're not going in the wheel anymore, right? We're starting to now go forward. The problem is that if AEW can't find that audience off of how hot wrestling is now, which arguably you could say AEW started that, that popularity again, right? And one of the reasons that Tony Khan got involved in this is because allegedly he saw these shirts around town that said Bullet Club. Didn't know what the fuck that was, and then found out, and then was like, oh, great, this is great. I can put money into it, et cetera, et cetera. So that popularity, the Bucks and Bullet Club getting their shit into Hot Topic, that was popular. Now, Hot Topic is clearancing AEW stuff. You know, it's not as popular, but the WWE brand is. If they can find a way to capitalize on the fact that wrestling's hot again and build those numbers, just keep building them a little bit, then it will be safe to say that the contract will be successful, because outside of WB, if you go, well, they can find another television deal with, let's say, True TV or, blah, blah, it ain't going to be the same thing. They're going to be as obscure as TNA is to find and watch, etc. So you can have all this money, put all this money in, but the truth of the matter is that really your base of your company, the value of it is based in this television deal. And if it does not go well the next couple of years, it's a possibility you could be out of business. That's the reality of television. Not necessarily, WWE versus AEW, anything like that. One of the reasons TNA is still around is because of access.
That the problem is the writing, and the problem is the egos. The
problem is the promoter.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, all of it. Promote does not know how to fucking promote.
All of it. I've been in the last 2 companies I worked for. One, and they're out of business now. One was a place called Cons Home Plus. And if you live in the Las Vegas area, you've heard of Bob's Discount Furniture. They advertise nonstop. Right. They've only been in the Valley 5 fucking years. And as soon as they touch down in Vegas, put a building to soil, commercial. I'm a New Yorker. They're from the tri-state area. They're a Connecticut-based company with a guy who would shoot a VHS video about how cheap his furniture was in his basement. And now they made a claymation version of him, but it's like CGI, and boom, everybody knows what they are. Everybody knows what Ashley is. Everybody knows what RC Willie is. Nobody knew what my company was. And they would walk right by it and they'd go, what is this place? Because the guy never advertised. And that company had been around 150 years, originated from Texas, went out of business. Whose fault was that? If you'd been there 150 years and now you're the CEO and you take over and your company goes out of business on your watch, it's your fault. Nobody else's. You can't blame the internet. You've been there for 5 years. The internet's been around since 1994. Come on. So something was wrong with you. Same thing with, again, if you're in the West Coast like we are, Fry's Electronics. They're out of business. They're out of business because they did not advertise. They did not want to fix the kinks in their systems. Did not want to fix their website. Went out of business. Yep. Where is ECW? It got swallowed up. All right, but the key guys were there. They still had a job. They were able to influence.
But ECW, remember, ECW, the biggest problem was that ECW was on TNN. And what did TNN do?
Network.
Well, TNN decided, hey, this is great. We put parameters on you. Okay, so they scaled back what ECW could do. That made them famous, right? So Stupid. It wasn't the same. Stupid. And then as soon as WWE's contract came up with USA, TNN went, we'll take it. And that's when they went to TNN, and that's why ECW was gone and eliminated, because of the fact that they lost that television deal. Mm-hmm. And it killed them. But again,
if I'm not mistaken, TNN ended up picking up TNA for a while. Did it not?
Eventually, after
while there was some
Raw left. So Raw was on for I think a year or 2 years.
Yep.
And as soon as Raw left, then it did, and then that's when TNA started bouncing.
And it was the Nashville network, and then it became Spike TV.
Spike TV, exactly. So, and that's essentially what happened in terms of it transitioning. But the biggest thing there is, you said it, ECW was promoted by Paul Heyman single-handedly, and the guys who were in that company, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who got that word out, who built a buzz. Everything that was done was early internet. Everything was done to build that brand. The one thing that killed that brand is going to television, where the executives were like, no, you can't, have lesbians make out. You can't do this. You can't do that. It killed the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying. The problem is, and I've said this from day one, when networks get involved in television, it doesn't matter how popular your product is. They start fucking around with it. It could mean that you are done.
Yep.
Yep.
And that equates to, almost in essence, like having a Tony Khan type who doesn't get it, but they want to throw their 2 cents, and then they have their imagination of what it could be. And, if you only did it like this, I equate it to having that very overzealous mom who wants to look over your shoulder as you do homework. And she's like, you know what? You could do it this way. No, but everybody likes this. I don't get why the kids have to dress up like this and wear these clothes and act this way. You should do it like I do it. Do it for me. Do it for Tony. Do it for Tony. I know what the kids do at the other place, but do it for me. Well, I worked over there, and that really worked. I don't think so.
Well, and unfortunately, the thing is, when you're an independent company, and again, listen, I don't care how many billions of dollars, you're a businessman.
Billions and billions.
Yeah. Well,
the most billions.
And the truth of the matter is that the television contract was very important, because the television contract is literally what's paying for them to make the TV product. And that's been from the beginning, right?
Well, let's do this. I don't mean to cut you off, but let's do one thing. Let's pontificate. Let's figure out what's the future going to look. 2025, we're here a year from now. We still don't have any hair. And we're watching this program now, and it's World's End again. What did we see it all in? What did we get from Tony Khan? Did he advertise his company? Is his company fledgling? Are we talking about 700,000 viewing nights for Dynamite? What are we seeing?
I see the Texas Rangers have an awful season because their baseball stadium was ripped up by the 1,700 angry fans who saw a main event that was, Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page in a Texas
barf battle.
Yeah.
No, I've seen a lot of barf battles, and you know what? No better barf battle than when you got good JR's old barbecue sauce. You'll be hurling all right.
The truth of the matter is that if they can get if they can get again an increase, build your base to consistently 800,000, then you're doing something right. If you're getting your shows that are, not your stadium shows and the shit you're doing like that, but your regular television tapings, if you can draw 7,000, 8,000, bring those numbers back up from, Collision doing 1,500. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all they have to concentrate on doing is rebuilding the brand. Because right now, outside of the AEW fans who are already there, and again, it shows in Tony's attitude, where it's just like, our fan base is so dedicated. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but all you need, that's not enough to pay the bills.
No.
It's not enough to keep the lights on, and you're not growing the brand.
No, and that's what I think that he doesn't. I don't think he realizes that all it takes is one network executive change that looks at this as going, yeah,
This isn't profitable for me. Why am I investing my time in this? I'd be better off watching. I'd be better off running a Matrix rerun on Friday night.
Yeah, see,
and
and that's
Saturday night.
And again, we've already seen it now with Rampage, right? Rampage is canceled. And one of the reasons, again, is because it costs Warner Brothers money to produce the television show. That's part of this contract deal. And Tony's not paying for the television show. He's not paying for these crews and stuff, as I understand it. That's what the television money is going towards, is to actually produce the product. Warner Brothers probably has a profit margin at back end, or some kind of 5% deal or something like that, I would assume, on this. So it's in their best interest for the company to become more profitable. That's what it comes down to. Quite honestly, could we see, do we even need a World's End, right? Maybe you go back to doing something that worked, and that was 4 pay-per-views, 3 pay-per-views, 5 pay-per-views. Why do all these pay-per-views? Why run a Ring of Honor pay-per-view at all?
All of that should be the Ring of Honor. The Ring of Honor needs to be, all right, this is your Ring of Honor match. It is a segment of our pay-per-view. We will honor Ring of Honor rules. We'll have Ian Riccaboni do the commentary, and then he leaves. Now, to be perfectly honest, I don't like rotating commentators throughout the evening. It annoys me. It's distracting. The only time I don't mind that is if you're going to bring Jim Ross at the end, and even now, he's terrible. Last night was not good commentating for him. And when he does have a moment, he's tripping over everybody else, and they're tripping over him because they don't know when he's going to say something valuable or noteworthy. And they're still trying to use him because they're hoping he has that one moment that will go viral, or that one moment they can use for their promos, where he'll have Jared go, "My God, business is about to pick up." Great. You want him to say his catchphrases under your banner. I get that. But you don't know when he's going to do it. He's not consistent. He's not reliable. So, okay, you've got the guy. Great, but that's, 2024 Jim Ross, not 2000 Jim Ross. And they have to get to that point where they go, we can part ways with you. We'll leave you in the back, bring you out once in a while. Maybe you'll have do a guest thing for.
But they essentially have. Honestly,
they have.
That's what they're doing right now.
But even now, it's too much. It's tiresome to have 4 guys.
But the right, and that's the problem. So that's the problem. The problem is that 3 is too much. 2
3 is pushing it. Yeah, 2 is all right. Point, counterpoint, face, heel, fact guy, emotions guy, done. Jim Ross, Jerry the King Lawler, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and who did he have with him back then?
Monsoon,
right. They had one, and they had a point, counterpoint, done. When you add the 3rd voice, you get Shivani. And Shivani has not a goddamn thing in his head. It's almost like watching someone who's never watched wrestling before. It's like watching your friend's dad go, "Oh, what we got here? Well, wow, this is a hell of a show." Again,
and I, this is my problem. The problem is that, once again, this is the problem with aging commentators.
But he never was. His job was to sit there and go,
"Oh, no. He was Nitro. He was Nitro, man."
Yeah, I know.
And I never liked him.
What was he known for? He was known for standing there with the mic in Ric Flair's face.
Right.
And he stayed on too long, and he never improved. This is why I'm not a Michael Cole fan. He's another one of those guys
Yeah,
who was
but
funny.
there's a whole difference. There's a
He's
difference.
better.
Though.
Michael Cole is better.
But the big difference is this. The difference is that Michael Cole is still a coherent man in his early 60s.
Yes, I'll give him that. He's not. I find him to be taxing, but he can call a match.
Right. Shivani, the problem
Can't
is
call a
right
match.
now, you have Shivani who never was that great, in a position where he's doing it with Excalibur, who is the one who should be your color commentator, but is essentially taking your lead commentator because your lead commentators can't do it anymore because they're too old. And then you throw in this rotating color commentator, and quite frankly, it's like Daddy S, Daddy Magic, or whatever the hell,
Yeah, which
Austin
he's there
Gunn
because
goes
of
by.
weird
I mean,
voice.
yeah. The thing is that actually fits his personality. He's pretty good at it because they're giving him something to do with his personality. And that goes back to, so it's like you can't even figure out what your broadcasting team should look like or sound like. And yet you're taking wrestlers and who aren't getting the opportunity to show those characters and personalities anymore. And you're throwing it. It's just like,
my thing was that they made a big deal about having Jericho commentate, and then they put on William Regal, and Jericho was not calling the moves accurately, and William Regal let him have it.
Well, I think so. Jericho is an anomaly. Jericho is going to do what Jericho wants to do. If Jericho wants to call matches, he will call matches. If he doesn't, he will not call matches. If he wants to be the learning tree, he's the learning tree. If he wants to be the king of New York, he's the king of New York. Jericho has full reign to do whatever the fuck he wants to do in that company.
But
That's why
now
he loves
they
it.
did that with other wrestlers in it, and I'm going, okay, what are we doing here?
But that's the thing. Jericho can do it because he's Chris Jericho, and quite honestly, Jericho has enough built up where he's entertaining enough. He can do what he wants to do, but that's it. That's a thing. He's going to do what he wants to do, and that's it. You look at, you pulled Taz off of commentary. Why? I don't know. On top of it, you're not using him right now. So unless there's something wrong,
no, he's
with
back.
him,
He was back. He got injured. He was at Hammerstein Ballroom.
Oh, okay. So and they
He's
probably
back.
and they probably brought him back because it was Hammerstein.
He had knee surgery.
Yeah,
that was it.
So, but the whole thing is that at some point, again, you got to look at these younger guys. The WWE has gone through the rotation. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, Ian Riccaboni could do it." He can't. He's already proven that, and it's not because he can't call. It's because he has a disorder that doesn't allow him to always be there.
I didn't know.
Yeah, that was the thing that got in his way in WWE. So he's a guy that you can use as long as mentally he's healthy enough to do it, and he can travel to where you need to get him to, etc. There's got to be people out there. WWE is good at finding sportscasters and making them into wrestling announcers. Coachman, they did with him. Well, I'm not saying he was great, but Jonathan Coachman lasted with that company for a long time.
He was better. He was better than most. I don't like the guy Joe Tessitore. He's just very bland, and he's really just a holdover until they get Pat McAfee back. Let's be real. Pat McAfee comes back.
Pat McAfee is a color commentator. He's never going to be a play-by-play guy.
No, but he's entertaining enough that he makes Michael Cole good.
But
I
Joe,
like those two.
But Joe is exactly what you need from a play-by-play guy. It's a play-by-play. And what play-by-play is now in wrestling is occasionally calling out the moves, but it is selling the product. Go back and listen to Jim. You know, again, I think Jim Ross is one of the most overrated guys in the history of wrestling. Go back and listen to him call matches on Raw, and what you're going to find out is that all Jim was doing was giving you those sound bites. But 90% of the time,
Jerry the King Lawler was the one.
Well, but you're talking about Jim is giving you what is going on in the show, what is happening later, promoting what's going on. That style of broadcasting became what, Vince was feeding Jim essentially, in making sure that they were hitting those types of points to keep the audience interested, because that's what Vince used to do at the table. So, and that all started with Raw. That's the same thing. Why was Shivani on Nitro for so long? Because Shivani was a guy that could tell you, you got two guys wrestling and they're talking about what Goldberg's going to be doing in 90 minutes. That's what wrestling is now.
Mm-hmm.
So you need people who can convey that and keep the audience interested while conveying essentially the bigger things. And the problem is that sometimes the issue isn't necessarily the broadcasting. The issue is that there's nothing really interesting to get excited for. And that's why you start going, well, Michael Cole is not really that good. Well, it's not necessarily that Michael Cole isn't good. It's just that what he's selling isn't good because the product isn't there.
My problem with Michael Cole is Michael Cole is this guy who speaks down to the audience. My feeling of him. Either what they have him reading, and I'll give you an example, or maybe it's not a great example. When Sasha Banks and Naomi were like, wow, you're not using us. We have these women's tag belts, and now you're having us as enhancement talent for another match. We're out. And they give Michael Cole the unenviable task to have to explain why they're gone. It was a semi-classless way to just say, oh, well, these two people did not act in proper sportsmanship.
Right. So it was a bad example because that wasn't Michael Cole.
Right. But they gave it to him. Now, and I will use a more poignant example. When the Hardys came back and they did not have the rights to their broken persona that they built up on TNA yet. And Michael Cole is the dad commentator. It was like a sanitized, OxyCleaned version of some of these guys. And he came out and he goes, wow, things are about to get broken. And I look at this and I go, it's cringy. It is the guy who so desperately wants to be cool. And then what happens is you get somebody who we don't know in the wrestling world. I didn't know who the fuck I didn't know Pat McAfee. And then I looked into it and I went, oh, they grabbed some guy from football land to do this, but he's entertaining. And he made Cole entertaining, and now Cole is excited to be there. When Cole speaks, it's exhausting because you could tell that he's exhausted. He's not happy being there. I'm sure he is, but he doesn't come off like that. He always comes off like this is a chore. Explaining what happened is a chore. That's the way he seems.
So,
and Corey Graves too. Corey Graves is the exact same person as Michael Cole. He'll even say, this is my heir apparent. And they both act like telling you what's going on SmackDown is an exhaustive chore.
Yeah, see, and that's one man's interpretation.
Watch the way they talk. Well, Roman Reigns.
See,
and the bloodline.
I don't see that at all.
And they're just annoyed. Now, Wade Barrett has energy. Wade Barrett has an energy with the way he presents stuff. Joe Tessitore has an upward inflection with the way he presents things, even though I don't care for him because he's newer. But the other two jackasses on SmackDown are so fucking dour all the damn time. They suck the life out of whatever they're commentating on. Until you pair Cole with the right guy, then he becomes good.
So the problem you have is that
you're
already jaded on them, and that's
because it didn't happen overnight.
No, and that's my problem with Excalibur. I can't fucking stand the guy. I think he's awful. He's god fucking awful. And
what Excalibur is, in my mind, Excalibur. This is the way. When I was introduced to AEW, it was one of my buddies. None of I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't yet. And my buddy said they've got this guy Excalibur. He's a luchador of sorts, and he sounds like Jim Ross when he starts yelling. And I think what they were going for was a guy who kind of sounds like Jim Ross. We want that kind of guy who could scream and get excited. Nope. And I listened, and I said, I see what he's trying to do, but it sounds like canned responses. There does not seem like a genuine response.
Right, because Excalibur is a guy who is from SoCal, and Excalibur was a wrestler, and he wasn't a good wrestler, and he's not a good commentator, but you know what he is? Friends with the right people.
Wasn't he on Lucha Underground?
He might have been. If he was probably one of the most unmemorable things about it.
I remember him. I think he was there as one of the commentators.
Probably. Doesn't faze me.
Right.
But no, the guy, the reason he's there is because, he's again friends with, the
right
Young Bucks, and
now, when I watched it, Jim Ross was on What Culture Wrestling when they had a British show, and he was an announcer, and it was some of Kurt Angle's last matches. And Jim Ross at like 50% capacity. That energy, that gravel, the fire was still there. It was in spurts, but it was there. And I'm watching him, and I'm going, as I said earlier, they don't know how to talk around him. So they want to give him some birth to have a thought, and then it never comes. And it fucking holds up the whole thing. If I have an announced team now, and you want to do 3 guys, fine. This is what they like. They like Excalibur because he can belt out all of the announcements like a school principal. Okay. He's your middle of the road guy. He's your utility guy. Taz is my guy. Taz can call a match. Taz can be play-by-play. Taz can give you be the heel commentator. Taz is good. In my eyes, he can do no wrong. Then you've got this secondary spot, and there's Nigel McGuinness. McGuinness is great. McGuinness is entertaining. He's a sour asshole. I love him. He's another good one. And then if you want to rotate people in and out, you could put in an Ian Riccaboni if he's on point to do it, even if it's just for Ring of Honor. There's guys you could rotate out. And I do like Matt Menard as a guy. I do like Matt Menard once in a while, Jericho once in a while. Who's Fat Elvis? Excalibur, Taz, and Fat. Oh, yeah, Matt Menard. I like Matt Menard.
Yeah.
He's not bad. There's your team. I don't want Shivani. I want Shivani in the back, gripping the mic for dear life. Get rid of Alex Marvez. Just have Shivani in the back, and rotate between Shivani and Renee Paquette, because Renee Paquette is boring too, because it's always the same thing. Somebody says something over the top stupid, and she goes, "Ugh." I want her and Shivani. Good. Those two. That's it. Shivani should be the guy. You put him in the ring, and somebody strangles him half to death or slaps him around. Done. That's it. Shivani should be there to take a bump or two, or take a smack to the head, or do what they did with Britt Baker and have people do like hurl insults at him. Yes, Don Callis is another good one, but you're not going to have Don Callis in their role. You had him as a commentator in TNA, but they have too much for him to do here. Now, when Don Callis is commentating when it's a Don Callis family match, he will put over the other guy and go, hey, I'm going to put, Powerhouse Hobbs over because I have to sell the match. I cannot just say that this is going to be a squash match, so I'll put Powerhouse Hobbs over to go put Kyle Fletcher over or whomever the guy is fighting. And that's smart because it was Powerhouse Hobbs versus Konosuke Takeshita. They had to say, hey, this is a meat match. These are two guys slapping man meat. These are two big powerhouse guys. Great. He was in the family, and you know what? I'm running a business. But now, hey, look at this guy. Look at the bumps he's taking. Look at the damage he's doing to Takeshita. This is and he's doing a Paul Heyman. He's like he's doing a makeshift Paul Heyman, because every time his guy is taking a bad bump, he is ready to jump out of his seat and go into the ring and do something. Love it. That's good. He is the best thing that they've got going, and they're still not doing enough with him. But yes,
it's not they're not doing enough. They're just not doing the right things.
Fine, fair enough. But you see where I was going with that.
Yeah,
he could be utilized way better than he is. When he was working with Kenny Omega, that was the best he had done so far in that company.
Right, because that was the only reason he was there. It was because of Kenny and Chris. That's it.
And it worked. It worked for a while, but then they did dumb shit. The fucking golden jets, the golden this, the golden.
What could they do better with Don Callis? First off, they could get him a fucking stable that doesn't, not make any sense, which this stable currently is one of the stupidest fucking conglomerates that they tossed together. Exactly the same thing.
Konosuke Takeshita. He yells at him. He speaks to him in Japanese, and the guy does not emote, and he doesn't communicate with the guy, and he does not put the guy over. Kyle Fletcher is there to not be. Kyle Fletcher
doesn't need to be there.
He doesn't need. So that's another one. Then you've got the Murder Hawk monster, Lance Archer. Don't know what he does. He doesn't bring anything. And then you've got Brian Cage, who does nothing. So you've got four guys, two of which you have working actively in your stable. The other two do nothing, even though they're big brick shit houses. You can't figure out what to do with them. They can't cut a promo. Nobody can put any shine on them.
And by the way, Don Callis traded for, who was it, for Archer with Jake the Snake, and
Luchadors.
Jake the Snake got the Luchadors, but Don Callis didn't even own the Luchadors.
That's right. He traded away something he never had to begin with.
This is what I'm saying. This shit makes no sense,
and that's
the problem. And I mean, sucking the knob of fucking one company or the other.
Oh yeah, I mean, Don Callis got his head split open. He comes out with the scar. He sells it. Great.
Sure.
His association with Kyle Fletcher, fine. He does not. He should have just taken ownership of Inland Empire. Then you're the manager of Inland Empire. Done. I gave you a prefab New Japan Pro Wrestling faction. You've got three guys, two of which are over. The third guy is kind of like the odd man out, but still, you've got three guys. Everyone's still doing this shit. You inherited something, and then you're all heels. Done. Done. Simple.
And again, like Marcus says, which is wild, should have them doing what Death Riders is doing. Death Riders is fucking awful. It's like, let's do something that's been done before, but try to not make well. It, not well. And also not have any fucking rhyme or reason where it's going. So
remember, I don't know if Marcus remembers when Aces and Eights came out. Aces and Eights came out at an end of a pay-per-view. I don't remember which one, and they beat the shit out of Sting. Then we don't see them for a month, and little by little, we roll out the members, and we find out at a pay-per-view where it's Bully Ray versus Jeff Hardy that it was Bully Ray running it all along.
Right.
And then Bully Ray did an entire 2-hour show in between every match where he explains every step of the way how he fucked over Hulk Hogan and Brooke Hogan. Good. And it was good. Then it ran too long. And after Aces and Eights was done, TNA fell off a cliff, and now it's come back. But they knew it was time to end it eventually. This thing is going on, and it never had a purpose. And the Death Riders, that is. Blackpool Combat Club had a vague purpose, but without fucking William Regal there to guide it, it no longer made sense that you have 4 guys in a British-sounding oriented boy band of angry people. And then they got long in the tooth and they started getting slapstick with each other. They started coming out with these comical T-shirts. Bryan Danielson with the eye patch and a rat logo made no goddamn sense. This is what happens when you stick around too long. And now all you did was slap a new name on them, and they're angry. Why are you angry? You won. I'm just tired of everyone who runs shows thinking just because the stable may not work now doesn't mean it. Yeah, no, it's not even that. AEW is riddled with stables that go nowhere. The conglomeration gone nowhere. Don Callis family.
And they've been doing it since the beginning.
Right. They
this
all
is
go
that
nowhere.
company is.
The
Four Horsemen was a stable for years because the Four Horsemen made fucking sense.
Yeah, it worked. And then they also slowly integrated people in and out. Lex Luger didn't show up day one.
It was never bigger, and it was never bigger than essentially 4 to 5 members, whether you count JJ Dillon or not, or the
AEW has been around 5 years. We've seen.
Jeez, don't even try.
Hold on. We've got the Inner Circle. That was good. Okay, replaced by the Jericho Appreciation Society, which was a watered down Inner Circle because none of those guys were at the same level of wrestling that Proud and Powerful were. And then you have the Learning Tree faction. Terrible. So each iteration worse. You have the Foundry. The Foundry under QT Marshall? Don't care about that. Went nowhere. Yeah, Anthony Ogogo, they did nothing with him. You had I can't even remember that the other guy who never wrestled in there. Had a bunch of people there, didn't wrestle. It goes on and on with all of these fucking factions, and they accomplish nothing. And if they are good, they don't know how to maintain. The Acclaimed is kind of a faction if you had Daddy Ass, and they had a good 1-year run. Murder Hawk's not going to do anything. Brian Cage is not going to do anything. You're right. He has no charisma. I think he's a great guy. We've seen him in person. He seems like a wonderful guy, but they can't make him work. They brought him over from TNA, couldn't make him work. TNA got him over from Lucha Underground, couldn't make him work. He's a strong guy. He's got no charisma. They put him in the Taz, Team Taz, couldn't make him work. They screwed him over, thinking maybe he'll become a babyface and we'll feel sympathy for him. We'll put the belt on Ricky Starks. Neither of them looks good. You took a muscly bound guy, you stripped him of the belt, you put him Powerhouse Hobbs, didn't give him the belt, you put it on Ricky Starks, you put him in slippers, and you paraded him around. He was injured as soon as he got the fucking belt. He was walking around in slippers going, I broke my neck. I can't wrestle, but I'm going to hold this belt, which means nothing, by the way. And we have to preface every title defense of this belt by saying it doesn't matter. Why would I put a belt on somebody and tell the audience it doesn't matter and then make a faction around a belt that doesn't matter?
Here, you just proved your own point, Marcus. You're talking about Don Callis' family. Hobbs has no charisma either. So you throw no charisma guys with Don Callis and let him tell the story. Except for the fact that Hobbs goes away and then comes back and is no longer in the fucking thing anymore and has no reason or anything to be. This is the problem.
He was doing the Book of Hobbs, which is off of a movie, while he's in a slapstick QT Marshall group. So all these guys are doing this what's that live TV show where they're always they're doing all of the sport, they're interviewing all the Hollywood celebs. Right. They're doing this thing where they're all in a newsroom.
Oh, it was the TMZ bullshit.
The
Yeah,
TMZ thing. But then while they're doing the TMZ thing, you have in your faction Powerhouse Hobbs, and you're doing a Book of Eli thing where he's telling you all of the dark and gritty ways he's going to beat you while you're doing a TMZ thing at the same time. And this is all one faction. It does. And then you've got Harley in there, and she's some crazy Australian woman, and they don't know what to do with her, Harley Quinn. So it's bad. This is what TNA has to their success. Inner Circle with Jericho, successful. Agreed?
For AEW, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Pinnacle, for a brief moment, just to counter them, you had the Pinnacle. And I thought that was good for a while. The Pinnacle with MJF at the helm worked for a while. And it was interesting. And they came out with the suits and they did the thing. And you had Tully Blanchard. I thought that was good for a while. I wish they had figured out how to do something with Sean Spears as the chairman when he clocked Cody in the head and split his skull open with the chair on a shoot. Fine. Didn't do it. But for a while, that was the thing. You have Timeless Tony Storm. You have Britt Baker, MJF. And I can't think of anybody else. Maybe a few mock spots here and there. Some Orange Cassidy stuff. But that's it. And now you've got all of this other shit floating around. And now everyone's fighting everybody. Everybody's fighting everybody. And it doesn't amount to anything. Last night was a great example. See, the problem is, Marcus, last night at the world's end, nothing ended. Nothing ended.
And saying like, no one in wrestling pivots, Jericho pivots. The problem is that Jericho is not pivoting for anybody else. Jericho's pivoting for Jericho.
Himself.
Jericho's doing whatever the fuck he wants to do.
Which he says in interviews all the time.
Yeah.
I'm having fun. He says it in all of his interviews. I'm having fun now. That's what I'm doing. I'm here to have fun.
Well, and again, the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. Okay, what was wrong with those 6 people working together? Because you had 3 people and 3 people, you just threw them together, and they don't give time to grow or work or anything like that, especially when they put these random fucking people together. And a lot of these guys are together because these are guys who like each other and who want to work with each other. That's why.
And they gave that 1 month, and they broke that up in 1 month. 1 month, you could have had a really dominant faction that was entertaining, and where all the members were over at that one point in time. No, that's fine, but
it's not. No one lets anything bloom.
It's Tony.
Tony Khan does not let anything bloom because he has no fucking clue what he's doing.
He has no vision anymore.
I brought the shirt.
I think it was
great.
I think it was we saw the problems when what's his name left. When there was no more Cody is when I started to see things slipping a little bit.
Well, yeah, and that was always, again, a Bucks play, Bucks Omega, all those guys, they're the ones who forced that issue so that, Cody would get the fuck out of there. And, this is something he lets wrestlers, Tony Khan lets wrestlers book everything. He tells who wins, loses. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
No one lets anything bloom. No, he doesn't, because he has no control over it. That's the problem. No long story bookers. No shit. He's the booker. These guys aren't. They're fucking telling him what they want to do. They're kissing his ass. They're friends with them. All that shit. And the problem is that this guy just does not know how to control this shit. The monkeys are running the circus. That is it. And the circus is getting fucking rid of, the good shit and just letting the clowns fucking do shit. And that's why people stop going to the circus.
Yep.
And Richard said that was great. So I don't know what part was great, but we'll agree that was great. I don't know which it was, but But yeah, I mean, and again, in comparison, everything that you see in WWE is run through a structure. Like it or not, there's a structure. And one of the reasons that guys like Moxley, guys like Jericho, they love fucking AEW is because there's no structure they have to fucking upheld to. They have to be upheld in the WWE to whatever they want them to do. Here, they get to call it. And for the young guys, that's a problem too, because what was happening and still is happening is that guys are not listening to the guys they should be listening to, who are the veterans. So, and that's it, Marcus. That's it. I believed in AEW. I was a big Mark man. It's honestly so sad. That's the thing. The thing is it's not to shit all over AEW, but it's to be realistic as opposed to those fans who are still clinging on to the fact that this is the greatest thing out there, because that's what Tony's clinging on to. That idea that
it could be. It's all there. You have. Here's the fucked up thing, and we've been on doing it for 2 hours, but
when you said he didn't have a clue. Absolutely. Yeah. There we
go. Well, no, CM Punk leaving wasn't the downfall. The downfall was CM Punk was part of the problem of no organization, because no organization is going to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to let you coming off the street, and I'm going to build a whole show around you. And then that guy fucks it, shits the bed.
But CM Punk leaving, actually, it wasn't the downfall as much as it was the telling sign. Punk realized that he saw what was going on, and he realized he had to get the fuck out of there. He was committed to a contract, and that's it. Collision was good for those couple months, but sometimes, being around the people I know, I know a little too much. And one of the things that is unfortunate is that the structure is pretty bad. It's fairly non-existent. And with that, a guy like Punk saw that I have to get out of my contract. The only way to get out of that contract, the only way to get out of there, was to actually be in a position where they had to fire him to get him out of the contract. Otherwise, Tony would have just had him sit. He would have been sitting. So Punk realized that shit. He got himself fired. The downfall was when Tony Khan started doing all the promotional shit instead of Cody, because Tony started looking out for he started tailoring everything towards people who would just praise him. The people who were invited to ask questions on the phone pressers were people that Tony knew were going to say positive things. But if you asked him, like, why are they having such a struggle with developing the women's division?
I don't see a struggle at all. I think things are going really well. I think we have great talent. I think Tony Storm has done an incredible job. It's one person.
And he would go farther. And the farther thing would be, I don't understand why you're attacking us like this, essentially. That was the problem. And it was a big red flag that I was listening to constantly, being on these phone calls. That made me realize, when Cody, for instance, when Cody was doing the calls, I had no problem getting in and asking Cody a question. No problem, because Cody was just looking at what was coming in question-wise and answering the question. Cody knew how to answer a question. Tony doesn't. We still see that at the pressers today after the pay-per-views. He looks like a cocaine-fed deer in headlights, right? So
that great one with MJF was and the CM Punk one. The CM Punk one was a great example. You never let anyone like, wait, is this a shoot? Is this kayfabe? This guy looks like he's not in on it.
No. No, and that's the thing. And so, when you believe all the hype, when you keep everything, those people around you and whatnot, again, being hooked on this idea that the television contract was because their fan base is so loyal. No, it's the television contract was literally because that network lost their sports programming. Sports programming, live TV programming brings in better revenue because advertisers know that in sports or in wrestling, most likely people are going to be watching it live. They're going to have to see the commercials. It makes sense. Your core base of 500,000 to 700,000, it's amazing that those people love it so much. And I think that is absolutely a key thing. You need that base. But if you don't know how to grow that base because you won't listen to the people around you, that's the problem. And again, it goes back to now you're in the pockets of that network. And if at any point they do not feel that your return is, the return is profitable from what they've just invested, then they can cancel out. And that's the problem. And that's what we don't want to see happen. That's the biggest thing. If this goes down, if AEW goes down, all right,
this will be why.
It's exactly. It's the own arrogance and unwillingness.
When AEW came out, we were under the impression that the show was being funded by Tony Khan, but under the guidance of essentially all of these New Japan Pro Wrestling elites, which were the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and most importantly, Cody, and with some advice coming from Jericho. And the first thing we saw was Cody Rhodes watching videotape. He was watching footage of matches, and he was sitting there with a suit and tie, and I'm like, this is the face of the company. And when they had promos about the state of the company, it was Cody Rhodes who came out, and everybody got behind him. The announcer shut the fuck up. Everybody circled around the ring. He led like a leader would. The only problem he had was when he incorporated his character and having to have some sort of love of the fans. And you're not going to get that all the time. And yeah, maybe he wanted the belt from his dad that his dad didn't get. Fine. He did well for himself. It wasn't a bad choice on his part. He fucked himself by putting that stipulation where he couldn't get the belt. That was dumb. Didn't need to be there at all. You just lose. And then what happens? He dominates the mid-belt, the mid-card, and suffocates that with these endless feuds with Sammy Guevara, which got people bored.
Right.
He became the problem he didn't want to be. He didn't want to be this guy choking a belt off. And what did he do? He did exactly that. And then he pigeonholed himself. He couldn't go up. He couldn't go down. He couldn't earn what he had earned. But he still was the face of that company.
Right.
There were good times there.
And the thing is that it's also pro wrestling. So any one of those choices could at any time could have changed. But the politicking, this is where it becomes a problem, is the politicking of certain people, certain groups to one person. Everyone always in the 90s, that the clique was such a big thing, right? It was people hated the clique or loved the clique.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big reasons that the clique was any relevance at all was because they had Vince's ear. And in a way, if Sean and Hunter didn't have Vince's ear, the product never gets to Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Right? But Vince was smart enough to listen to those voices, again, that he trusted, but he had a structure in place around him. All the producers, all the agents, all that stuff. That's what Tony doesn't understand and doesn't
there's the George Steinbrenner always had this saying that I'm going to purchase people or buy people that are going to put asses in seats. And for the early 2000s or mid 2000s, we had Jason Giambi on the Yankees,
Yep.
catcher from the Dodgers. And he was really big when he was on the Dodgers. The Yankees get him. He can't catch, can't
Wait,
call pitches.
Who?
Wasn't it Jason Giambi? Wasn't he? He was DH. He was DH.
No, Jason Giambi came from the A's.
Why did I think Dodgers? Who was the Dodgers catcher?
Piazza was
Mike
the Dodgers
Piazza.
catcher,
Yeah,
and he went
I
to the
am-
Mets.
yeah. But yeah, Jason Giambi, I do remember, and he could not play. He never gave them the numbers that they paid him for.
No.
And it was always a problem. Oh, I got a problem with my contact lens. I can't see. I have difficulty with that. And when he would finally do what you asked him to do, get a home run, you go, oh, wow. Now you're batting like 225. Ooh, I didn't pay for that. So now you go, wait a minute. I put all my eggs on this one guy, and he's not going to get me to the World Series. The problem with wrestling is there is no World Series. Every little event they have is a make or break, and they're not building a cohesive team. They grabbed players. Players don't make a team. Players. You cannot treat wrestling like it's basketball. You can't treat it like it's a pro sport in the sense that you just get two guys and they're going to build a team
you
around.
can you bring out the Yankees. You just made a very good point. What you can have though is you could have someone who is underneath Tony Khan and
guiding him.
Well, the Yankees, I couldn't believe Cashman's been there for almost 30 fucking years.
Imagine where they would be at without Cashman.
Right.
They wouldn't be there.
Right. And that's the thing. Even Marcus just said he needs a damn team. EVPs that aren't wrestler, head booker, writing committee. Exactly. And that's it. Levels and structure and a school. ROH could be the development for the future, of course. All this stuff, I'm sure that majority of people say this type of stuff that aren't, again, just totally just focused on AEW as being this greatest thing ever, where you can't admit that these things exist that could make the product so much better. Because realistically, again, you have the second largest company. You have a television deal that merits the opportunities. And as much as I am very negative on certain things, you got to understand, I have a lot of friends who work there, a lot. And for me,
they're probably like, oh shit, every time they fuck this up, I might not have a job. I might not be able to be on this camera crew producing this show.
I mean, just up and down, but especially the talent. And for me, the great thing is that the talent are able to make their family set for their life, right? That's amazing. I want to see that go on for 10, 20 years, because I want to see these guys succeed.
And it also forces WWE to innovate. Because think of what happened when WCW was gone. A few years later, we had some of the shittiest, darkest years of WWE. I don't give a fuck what Cena did for the company. Those were boring times.
But again,
rivalry of rivalry, Cena versus Randy Orton.
But again, the difference now, which is even more so apparent, is that the WWE is not an independently, and even though they were publicly traded, everything was through Vince. This company is now TKO. Okay. At any point, Hunter could lose his job. Anyone in that company could lose their job. So you have to make those numbers happen. You have to be successful. You have to be innovative. You have to answer to a different power. Tony doesn't have to answer to anyone anymore. Competition definitely breeds success. I think that's a great point, Marcus. And that's what is needed. And right now, what you're seeing Tony do is what Vince was doing. And that is just sitting back and just fucking going, hey, it's my toy. I can do what I want. I have a fucking rabid fan base. That's it. You literally are seeing him do Vince McMahon without the sexual harassment shit.
Hey, I don't think he'd keep it up with Coke Dick.
Well, we know if anyone's a sexual harasser of that family, you got with that mustache,
Shad Khan.
It's got to be Shad, yeah.
Oh my
mustache,
God,
man.
Shad Khan.
Gotta tell you, Dad. See, and that's another thing too. It's like, again, everyone gave him so much credit for being a football owner, and it's like he didn't do shit. Look at his fucking job title for that company. His dad wouldn't even put him in charge of important shit for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I'll let you fuck up this other company. This is your thing.
This is your thing, kid. Here's a couple billion to go out and do this thing. Just kind of stay away.
You know what he is? He's Veruca Salt.
In a weird way, but I think he's also,
I want a wrestling company, Dad.
He's every single kid in Willy Wonka, right? He got a golden ticket, right? So he's Charlie, right?
Yeah.
And he is Mike TV because he just everything he saw on TV he's absorbed in. And then it's Veruca Salt because and then he's the German kid because he's just fucking eating up all the candy in the candy shop because he can, so, and
speaking of which, vitamin gummy.
And hey man, Violet's turning violet. So, but essentially that's it, man. He is Willy Wonka. He's got a chocolate factory. He doesn't have any midgets, so no Oompa Loompas.
Oh my God.
But that would be great. I want to see him. Where's the midget wrestling? Come on. But we
are going to have the best midget wrestling that anyone has ever. And he kind of has a Donald Trump presentation where he goes, "Never ever have we seen anything like this before. No one's ever seen anything like this before."
Jack Perry, he does have an Oompa Loompa. And he's the same color as the Oompa Loompas do.
Oh my God.
Jack's skin is so bad. Oh man. Well, there you have it.
I think we've given them 2 good hours.
Yeah, that's our diatribe for the end of 2024.
Yeah.
And again, you can tune into
the moral of the story is if you have fuck you amounts of money, know what the hell to do with it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Just because daddy gave you a lot of money doesn't mean you necessarily deserve it. If you're going to use it wisely. Use it fucking wisely, because we are watching and we have high expectations. And eventually you piss off the fan base by putting out drab programming. The rest of us are going to finally just tag out. And if enough of us tag out, all of those major networks are going to eventually go back to putting on Warner Brothers movies, which will probably be just as profitable for them. Because at any time, they will preempt your shit for a basketball game if they want to.
Dark Side of XPW, porn wrestling is the best wrestling. Oh, yes. Oh.
Her name is Mochi Mona, and oh my God, loads have been blown.
XPW, once again, too many friends and too many stories and too many things that happened over there. But porn wrestling
for another time.
Wrestling. Yeah. So, Rob, anything coming up?
A couple of weeks. I've got a comedy show. When we get closer, I'll post the stuff on that.
There you go.
Other than that, I'm sure we have an ad for our friends at PP.
There we go.
Rep Sports. Use the code Vegas, and you will get a discount. And
10% off all of your
off.
nutrition needs.
That's right. 10% off all your nutrition needs. And yes, I will say this because it is, thank you, Richard. It is worth mentioning always that we do want to thank our brave servicemen, men and women who have fighting so that we can sit there and rap for 2 hours about how AEW is fucked up, because we do want to acknowledge all of your sacrifices for you and your families. Thank you so much, and God bless you for all that you do. And also, I want to say a special thank you to Donald Trump. If I wanted to, I've looked into it. We're considering buying AEW and calling it TEW, Trump Extreme Wrestling, okay? And the number one Trump International Trump title or statue, it's going to be called the Tits Award. It's going to be the Tits Belt. And we love these golden titties. We love these golden titties. And they're going to be fighting for the Golden Titty Award. And we're looking into making it, quite honestly, even bigger than anything that little Vince McMahon has ever done, okay? He solves $1 million lawsuits. My sexual lawsuits are with billions and billions of dollars. And it's going to be the most sex that anyone's ever seen in a ring. Believe me.
Well, there you have it. We'll end 2024 on that note and be back again next week with a recorded episode looking at 2025. Again, thank you all for tuning in and joining us today and for listening to the podcast. We hope you have a happy and healthy and safe New Year's and New Year's Eve.
Yeah, be safe out there, especially if you live in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, go join the 300,000 people on fucking Strip on Vegas.
Yeah, I did that once. I don't recommend it.
No.
You can see fireworks anywhere.
Yeah, boom booms make boom boom sounds, and if you're up in the hills, you can go see the.
And then you get back to your house and realize you have no wallet. Hey, there you go. Enjoy the New Year's, guys, and thank you for watching the Vegas Badboyz podcast.
Happy wrestling, everybody.
We're the wild cards in the ring. Hear our voices, let them sing. Heads are spinning, never slow. With our rhythm